Hi there. I'm Diana Montford, the world's first transgender television journalist. Born male, became female. I say that on every show because people ask me, what direction are you going? And I'm not sure. This way. Maybe I'll be non-binary and solve the problem. But anyway, my guests. Hello. This show's a keeper, folks. My guests are the super famous daytime drama actress, Miss Ilene Kristen. Yes, of Delia fame, of Roxy Balsam fame, the one, the only, hello, and as an added attraction, famous show business author Tom Lisanti, who's going to talk to us about his wonderful book about Ryan. Am I holding it correctly? Yes. Ryan's Hope, the great soap opera that lasted quite some time. Sadly, the bottom has dropped out of the soap opera world, and there are precious few soap operas these days, but for a long time, they ruled the air, and people would stop brain surgery to watch what they called their stories. And I had an aunt who, whatever, she had to watch her stories, you know. And this wonderful book, how can people get your book?
It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere pretty much online through the publisher, Kensington Books.
And it's called Ryan's Hope, an Oral History. And you really should get it. Even if you're not a Ryan's Hope person, if you've ever loved any soap opera, any daytime drama, this is chock full of information that you want to know. The nuts and bolts, the day-to-day, the way sets can be tiny in life and look like huge mansions on the screen. All those wonderful things that, well, this is called stagecraft, folks. So anyway, so let's talk with our wonderful guests. So, I don't know what to say. I'm gasping. Okay, I'm easy to please. What can I tell you? But anyway, what do I say to you? I mean, hi.
Hi.
Okay. How'd you get your start?
Well, let's see. I got my start. My dance teacher was very famous. His name was Matt Maddox. And I was 14 years old, and I took his class. A lot of professionals took it. They were older than me. Ally McGraw was in the class.
Wow.
A lot of famous people were in that class. There was an actress, Valerie French, this British woman, very elegant. Kevin Conway, red-haired actor, was doing a lot of Broadway. Anyway, Matt was featured in a lot of Hollywood, the best Hollywood musicals. He played Sid Teresa's dance partner in The Bandwagon.
Oh, I love that.
And he lifted Marilyn Monroe up in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes.
Oh, wow.
And
When he grabs her under the arms.
and they lift her up. And he did. He was in Seven Brides for Seven Brothers.
He was a
played
teacher.
He played one of the brothers in Seven Brides for.
Was he?
He
one
was
of the
my
teachers?
teacher. He came to New York to choreograph Broadway shows and also to teach. And he came over to me one day and he said, "Would you like to be on television?" And I went, "Yes." He goes, "Well, I'd like you to do the Bell Telephone Show," which was a big show.
Yeah, it really
I
was.
mean, every
Sunday nights.
It was
Sunday
night.
afternoons,
It was
yeah.
Sunday nights, usually once a month, and it was an extravaganza.
Yeah, it really was.
And I didn't have to audition for it or anything. He just trusted in
Well,
me
you knew your
enough.
work.
Well, I was 14. I had never worked.
Well, but I mean, he'd seen you in class.
He'd see me in class. He knew I had something. And that was my first job. It was live television. It was in the studio where Another World
Oh, wow.
eventually
How do you
shot.
like that?
Yeah.
And it was so exciting and kind of scary. The host, it was the Thanksgiving show for 1966, and the host of it, no, it was 1965. The host of it was Robert Young from Father Knows Best.
Exactly, and
Oh, wow.
Marcus Welby later after
Yes.
Right.
65. Yeah.
So you can imagine what, talk
Sure.
about being in awe of somebody. I mean, that was like,
You
everybody's
worked for the man
father.
who stood Joan Crawford. Hello.
Oh, did he?
Didn't everyone?
Yes. So that was my first job. And it was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're on live. And it prepares you for things in life.
Well, you're also a theater actress. You've been You were in the original company of Grease.
Yes, but before that, I was in a Broadway show when I was 15 that Michael Bennett, who later did Chorus Line,
Yes.
this was his second choreography.
Sadly, the poor guy died.
Yes, very sadly. He was a genius.
Was he really?
Not particularly easy to work with, but he was a genius, and I ended up doing very well with him. I never thought I'd work for him again. It was a Broadway show called Henry Sweet Henry, based on a movie called The World of Henry Orient,
yeah.
which was a very sophisticated, very
Peter Sellers, Mary Spaeth.
Yes,
Paula
yes.
Paula, I love her.
So
She's still alive.
Yeah.
She's like 90 something.
yeah. And that was quite an experience working with Michael Bennett.
You were one of the kids.
I was one of the schoolgirls.
Girls,
Right.
I was in the ensemble, and it was amazing working for Michael. He could figure out if something didn't work. He could figure out a way to make it work. He was really extraordinary, but a little scary at times because you didn't know what kind of mood he was. Whereas Matt Maddox, especially with these children, really kind of was very fatherly.
Yeah.
Michael was like, smoking a cigarette. I met Bob Fosse when I was 15 for the audition for Sweet Charity, the movie. And, he did the interview with all the girls, outside in Central Park with a cigarette.
Interesting.
Well, because he was shooting in there.
Oh, okay.
So it was like, but he was like, he's doing, we're all like 14, 15 years old.
And here's this debauched man. Hi, kid. Yeah.
So these choreographers are very interesting, and that was, my first go-round in life was working with these choreographers.
Well, now, you have such an amazing career. How does somebody get to be you? Some kid out there watching right now, how do you get that? How do you go from, all right, let's say you live in Ohio or Baltimore or something, and you yearn for that?
Okay. If you really yearn and you somehow make it happen. I remember my parents took me to see the Fantastics. It was the first week it had opened. I was all of 8 years old. They had brought the album home. They never thought that show was going to run, so they had they did the album. They did the album while they were still in previews, which was very smart. And my parents brought home the album because they saw it like twice during previews, and they said,
Wow, they must like it.
They loved it, and they said, well, we have to take
Follow.
Eileen to see it, And as I was watching it, I heard a voice go, this is what you're going to be doing. I just knew it, and I was 8.
We're big on psychics here, so I get it.
Yeah, and I knew it. And I got to work with, what's his name? The star of Law and Order. He passed away.
Not Michael Moriarty?
No.
Oh, I know the Italian guy.
No, he was Jewish. With Jerry Orbach.
Oh, right.
He played El Gallo in it. He was like the lead storyteller in it. He was the narrator. And years later, I got to work with him on Law and Order, and I said to him, I have to thank you. He goes, why? I go, because it was when I saw you and the company of the Fantastics that I knew I was going to be in show business. So he said, thank me, you should hate me, what a business. And I go, excuse me, sir, you've been as successful as you can get. He was in movies, he was in television.
Famous.
I mean, he was
on
famous.
Heinz Hope for a week.
Yeah.
When you were on it.
When I was on it, yeah.
Oh, wow. Did you have scenes together?
No. He was the big mafia. He was the big mobster that Joe Novak had to go to get clemency from.
Yeah. So he had conquered every area. So he said, "Well, what a business! Really hard." And I went, "Well, no one's been more successful at it than you." But he took my compliment. He ended up. I said, "Please, really, I thank you, because you ignited something in me."
Right.
And they did. My mother knew one of the people in it, Kenneth Nelson, who ended up passing away. He ended up being in The Boys in the Band.
Oh,
Brilliant
boy.
actor.
Yes.
Kenneth Nelson, brilliant. She knew him. I don't know how she knew him, but we went backstage. Backstage was, the dressing room was smaller than this room. And Rita Gardner was the only woman in it, so she had to share this dressing room with all these
Yeah,
guys.
but they're gay guys, so it doesn't.
No, they weren't.
Oh dear.
No, Kenneth Nelson was, but Jerry Orbach certainly
Did
wasn't.
they put like a little curtain? Or
They might have had a little curtain for
Uh-huh.
her, But I also was very intrigued by that. Also, I thought this is cool.
Well, sure, teenage girls hormones raging. Yeah.
Well, I was only 8, so I don't know. I was a little, I guess, mature for my age.
I guess, but yeah, I guess if you wanted, well, you were talking about Law and Order. My acting teacher was Michael Moriarty. He was on it for 5 years.
Yes.
Yeah. And he was very dedicated to acting. He still is.
His thing was called Potter's Field, correct?
I was a member of it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see me?
No, but I knew that. I knew that he had an acting
God
company
bless
called
you,
Potter's
because nobody
Field.
knew that.
I know a lot of
Well, you're a real actor.
He's also an amazing
Pianist and
jazz
composer.
pianist.
And he also
Like,
composes
shocking.
classical, if you ask him.
Shocking. But his jazz stuff is pretty divine.
He's brilliant.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. And he was a very nice man and a great teacher. And what was this about? It was about something. Oh, right.
Law and Order.
I went to see this cabaret show, and this actress in it said, I was very young, she said, listen, if you can do anything but show business, do it. Because I said, do you like your career? My mother was a former actress, but this was another lady, and whom we didn't know. But just, I said, how do you... And Michael Moriarty said, don't listen to her. You want it, you need it, you have to do it, I mean, I've been doing a talk show for 35 years, but believe it or not, people see me on television and offer me stuff. Like the last thing I played was Christine Jorgensen.
Oh, wow.
2 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah,
I loved her.
I did too.
Yeah.
She's
yeah.
dead now.
No, I know, but man, what a pioneer.
Yeah, well,
and
yeah.
so beautifully spoken and
Oh,
such
yeah,
an
well, yeah.
elegant human being.
Yes, she was. She was wonderful. And I was lucky enough to play her. And,
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But anyway, so how did you get into Ryan's Hope?
I was a freshman in college in 1980. I was going to Nassau Community College on Long Island, and I had a break between classes in my first semester, spring of 1980. And I come home, and I'm flipping through the channels. I have my sandwich, and I see this pretty blonde that reminded me of Carol Lindley, and she's in this office fretting to this guy about the big mafia don was just killed, and he was her silent partner in this restaurant. And if the Ryan family finds out she made a secret deal, they're going to get really mad at her. And I didn't know what I was watching, and the credits rolled, and it was Ryan's Hope, and I was like, Ryan's Hope? I think that's a soap. That's a soap opera. So, and I didn't realize that they had mafia plots on soap operas, and I was a big Godfather fan. So I started watching it, and Randall Edwards was playing Delia. Ilene had left, so I never got to see Ilene at the beginning. And then Roscoe Bourne came on as Joe Novak, the nephew of the mafia don that got killed. And between Randall and Roscoe Bourne, who was just charming as this evil mobster pretending to have gone straight because he wanted to reunite with Siobhan Ryan, the Ryan's the youngest daughter, I was hooked. So I kept watching, and then I got a job that where I was able to see it. This is before VCRs and stuff. And then the funny part with Ilene is back then, if you might remember, when an actor left a role, you would hear, the role of so-and-so will now be played by, and so I read in Star magazine that Randall Edwards was leaving, and I wasn't sure. Then I'm watching 1982, March, Roger Coleridge is going to marry Elizabeth Jane Ryan. The show starts, and the role of Delia Ryan will now be played by Eileen Kristen. And I was like, oh, Randall left. By the end of that episode, I was a huge fan of Eileen's role. Yeah, I didn't know that then. And so that's how I stayed hooked through Ryan's Hope, through the ups and downs, right to the end. And that's how I became a fan of the show. The book came about because I had met Ilene through a friend who was an agent a number of times, because I've written books about actresses from the 1960s, and Ilene would say to me, you should do a book on Ryan's Hope. You should do a book on Ryan's Hope. And I was like, Claire Labine, who was the co-creator with Paul Mayer, was still alive, and I didn't want to step on anyone's toes. And she passed away, And then I thought, well, maybe I should try. And I spoke to Ilene, I spoke to Roscoe Bourne before he passed away. And then I went to Paul Mayer, who's the co-creator, his 2 daughters, and they gave their blessing. And Claire Labine's daughter gave her blessing, but she didn't want to be interviewed. Paul Mayer's daughters did give me a nice interview for the book. And so I just it snowballed from there. And a lot of people, a lot of the interviewed actors, writers, crew members, they all came forth. And that's how the book came out.
You realize how important what you do is, don't you? I mean, nobody's doing this, only you.
Yes, I've heard that. And actually, I've they always say people copy you. It's sort of, you kind of get flattered. Somebody's doing the same type of book on Santa Barbara, not me. Her name is Melissa Braverman. I'll plug her.
Or maybe she got the idea from you.
Oh, yeah, she did. I think she did. So she's doing the same thing. She's not calling it an oral history, but she's doing the same thing. She's interviewing all these people from Santa Barbara. And I think I kind of sparked, and another writer, Alina Adams, is doing a book on the best moments of soaps, and she's bringing in guest writers, and she asked me to do it, and my favorite moment from a soap opera, or what do you think the most popular moment was, and I chose when Eileen's Delia was pretending to be blind, and she was married to Pat Ryan, the really nice Ryan brother, and it climaxes
But
on
you were fibbing.
it climaxes on an ocean cruise where he's somebody tells him that she's faking. He doesn't believe it, but he's like, maybe. And he throws. She asks for a hairbrush. And he throws the hairbrush to her, and she grabs it.
I catch it.
Yes.
And that's one of the fans' favorite moments of
really,
Ryan Soap.
It's really a good episode.
Yes.
It really is.
So
We had some good, endings of shows, and it's really important. That's what makes people tune in the following day.
yes.
Well, cliffhangers always.
Yes.
But sometimes the continuity is really off. Like, you see a cliffhanger, and then the next day,
They repeat it, or
but they repeat exactly, but it looks completely
different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess they I guess sometimes
they
they reshoot,
They
right?
reshoot
Yeah,
it.
yeah. And
Sometimes, yeah.
So and for me, Ryan Soap was not the big show. I mean, General Hospital. All my friends in college in the early '80s were watching General
I
Hospital.
thought it was dull. I'm
Oh
sorry.
yeah, I didn't like Luke and Laura. I actually was watching.
Oh, please.
I was.
That made me
I was
sick.
watching
That's
Texas.
ridiculous.
My next book was,
Luke
which
and
is about
Laura.
Texas.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
A rapist and a ditz. Come on.
But it was interesting to learn about with Ryan's Hope the backstory about dealing. Claire and Paul were very smart because not only were they the creators, they were the co-head writers, and they owned the show. So the first 5 years, ABC had influence, but not big influence. They would tell them what but it was pretty much Paul and Claire. When they sold the show in 1980 to ABC, ABC took charge, and a lot of I came in 1980 when the show was under ABC, and it became more glitzy and glamorous. There was, like I said, Delia owned a fabulous restaurant, which was really Tavern on the Green in Central Park. There were the clothes got nicer. There were the women were in furs. They were hyping up New York City. There was
a little opulent.
Yes, the mafia plot
But
was
it was
going
the 80s.
right.
It had to be.
Yes.
It had to be.
Yeah,
and,
I get
yes,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Claire and Paul were constantly pushing back on that. And then, of course, they wanted a teenage character, and Claire and Paul relented, and they created Kimberly Harris, who was the unknown daughter of the Ray Woodard, played by Louise Schaefer, was like the media maven, and she was powerful and manipulative, and and she was a villain. And now all of a sudden she had a 17-year-old daughter, but that's what the college kids tuned
Sure,
into.
I
And
mean,
then
you had to have
and then they
that.
brought in Michael Corbett as Michael Pavel, as this Brooklyn stud. He winds up sleeping with mother and daughter at the same time secretly. So the college kids were tuning in like crazy.
Sure, of course.
But there was constant pushback from the old guard who didn't like this type of Ryan.
Yeah,
So
well, they should.
they liked
because-
the Irish family and the religion part. The first
Yeah, but
5
even
years.
the demographics had changed.
Right.
It was just
Yeah.
different.
So I didn't know that earlier. When I started watching, I didn't know that earlier Ryan Soap was more homey, more gets down to earth. Again, being 18 years old, I got sucked into the glitz and the glamour.
It eventually really kind of came
around,
to
yes,
that.
At the
Again,
end, it
Yeah.
did.
Yes, it really did.
Because the fad for glamour.
Right.
Yeah.
Even Dynasty was dying. I think it went off the air that year,
Right.
'89.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it definitely came around. And then when ABC, Claire and Paul were brought back to the show in '83 after they had left, their mistake, I think, was they turned the show back to 1975 instead of trying to make a balance. Because in the '82 there was the Kirkland family, which was they were really rich, but it was a good storyline. And the Hollis Kirkland,
And he was great.
yeah, Peter Haskell.
Peter Haskell.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah.
When he was on Bracken's World, I had such a crush on him.
Yes.
Oh, he was so hot. I
Yeah,
loved him.
he was
And
great.
he was
Was he hot
He was
in
a great
person?
guy.
Yeah.
He was just a great guy.
Yeah.
I
He
saw
was really good looking.
he was good looking, and even as an older gentleman, he really was great. And I'm after the show was off the air, I had lunch with him, and then he died like less than 2 months later.
Was it something you said?
I hope not.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked.
Yeah, and all these soaps would bring in these rich families.
Well, yeah,
but
you
he
know,
was realistic because he
they
was
have to.
he was a real estate mogul and he was buying up air rights, and so that kind of made it realistic.
Yeah,
And
no,
for
people
it made
find
it-
out what the hell
Yeah.
air rights
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
He was sort of like a early Trump. I mean,
They probably based
Just
it.
Yeah.
a good actor,
Yeah.
though. Just a
Very
really
good,
good
yeah.
actor. And because I had watched him on all sorts of television
Yeah,
shows,
yeah.
you know, I was kind of in awe of him,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. The way I am of you. Okay, yeah.
But, you know, the funny thing about the stuff on the cruise ship, you know,
The
with
brush
the
and all
with
that,
the brush.
yeah, yeah.
But one of the people that I worked with was an actor named Joe Bova. And as a child, I'm getting chills just thinking about that. He played Officer Joe or something on this kids show.
Officer Joe Bolton?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And there I was working with him. And I told him, I said, you don't know what this means. You
Yeah, no, I
do
can
not
relate,
know what
sure.
this means to me. So
I
we
was
had a
met
great time.
Captain Jack McCarthy. He was drunk at the time. But
Listen, I worked with one of the guys who played Clarabelle.
was he drunk?
He was weird. Let me just-
Well, yeah. Duh, yeah.
yeah.
Da, 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 dum,
But,
yeah.
you know, still one of my heroes. You know, the Captain Kangaroo show was like,
Oh, yeah, I hear he was a nice guy. Bob Kristen, whatever.
not to the crew that he worked
Oh,
with.
really?
Oh, no, he was a horror. Bob Myram, who was one of our directors on Ryan's Hope, had worked the Captain Kangaroo show. No,
Not a nice guy, huh?
supposedly not. But he was great on the show.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, Captain Kangaroo was great.
Yeah, well, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Mr. Green Jeans.
Right. But now, okay, so what happened to soaps? What happened? Is it because women work all the time now and nobody's home to watch, or what?
I think what happened in the '80s, if the half-hour soaps all got wiped out, you know, Love of Life, Search for Tomorrow, Ryan's Hope,
Right.
Capital, Edge of Night, they were all wiped out and they left the hour soaps, and
Or they expanded them to
But
an
also
hour.
Yeah.
O.J. Simpson.
Yes,
That became
in the
a
90s,
greater
and
soap
opera
opera.
then.
I was,
right.
my boyfriend and I were having dinner, and the TV was on, and suddenly I see this white thing
Yes.
rolling down, and wait, look, we were in shock, like in mid-bite.
Yes.
Yeah, it was shocking. But that
Knocked the soaps off.
That knocked
Yeah.
the soaps off.
the
Why?
air.
Because they
It was
Because
it was,
it's
it was,
straight
it was
television.
OJ. It
people
was,
were
it was like
watching court TV
yeah.
or they
It's reality. It's sort of like the first reality
Yeah.
TV type of thing.
Remember that old show, Divorce Court? I used to
Of
watch it.
course.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it's the word. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, so I think that's what was the start.
But also
and,
there were so many other TV,
TV
stations.
stations,
You know,
yes.
when Ryan's Hope came on the air, there were 3 major
Right.
stations.
75.
So yeah, so that's what you want. You know, you either picked
Or a
Channel
local
2,
station
Channel 4,
like Channel
Right.
5 or Channel
yeah,
11 or 9.
WPIX or
Yeah.
WOR and
Right.
everything. That was it.
and the other thing that hurt the soaps was the syndicated shows on syndicated television, like the Oprah and Donahue.
Oh, yeah, well, that
So the affiliates they were getting higher ratings, so they started to take shows and
they're much cheaper to
right, and not
produce.
run them.
Yeah.
Like and with Ryan's Hope was at 12:30. What happened at Ryan's Hope was a little different because Agnes Nixon created her soap Loving, and they put it on in the morning at 11:30, and it was doing horribly. And from Seymour Amlin, who was an ABC executive that I interviewed. She went to ABC and said, "Look, I want Loving to come before all my children and my one life
Yeah,
to live.
sure,
I want
read
my
a
three,
block.
my
I have a
block
lot
of
of friends who
soaps."
did under fives on
Yeah.
Loving, yeah.
The only problem was
I did Loving for a year.
Ryan's Hope had that 12:30 slot.
Yes.
And so when they moved Ryan's Hope out of 12:30 to noon, noon was a spot where a lot of affiliates had local news.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
they didn't show it, or they showed it at 9 o'clock in the morning or at 2 o'clock in the morning, overnight.
Oh, God.
And so the
Oh,
ratings
God.
started to
She
plummet.
screwed us.
Yeah.
And she went to them and she pretty much pressured them. She said,
Yes.
if you don't do this as I'm telling you to do
Yeah.
it, I will take my shows to another
And
network.
she was like
She was-
Shondaland
yeah,
today, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Very powerful and did not was very jealous of Claire. Claire Labine was an extraordinary writer. As great a writer as I'm sure Agnes is, Claire, to me, is a much more profound writer.
Claire had 6 Emmy. Ryan's Hope was nominated for the Emmy for Outstanding Achievement in Writing 6 times.
We only have 2 minutes
Oh,
left.
and went 6 for 6.
There you go. But anyway, my guests, whom you'll see again very soon, are, of course, the great actress Ms. Ilene Kristen, who is, yes, an immortal. She has created, no, but you created great parts.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And the great show business author, Tom Lisanti, whose book on Ryan's Hope is available now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, in many different venues, right?
Yes, actually in Barnes & Noble stores.
Yes. So you should buy it because it's fascinating, and it talks all about the creation and the day-to-day of soap operas. Not only Ryan's Hope, but other soap operas. If you've ever loved a daytime drama, this is a great book to get because it explains the nuts and bolts of daytime drama. So, and it, as you know, most soaps have gone off the air by now. And are there any?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. A new one just started.
I know,
Yeah.
yes. About an African-American family, yeah. A very aspirational family, not unlike Dynasty, actually.
Right,
Yes,
exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, and buy the book. I love you. I'm Diana Montford. Hey, even if no one else loves you, I love you, so I'll see you next time.